In every war, there are stories that make the headlines, and stories that slip quietly into the shadows. Stories of men who fought, suffered, and endured not for glory, not for medals, but for each other. This is for them, the forgotten heroes. In the jungles of the Philippines, in the darkest years of World War II, thousands of soldiers were captured after the fall of Bataan. They had fought until their ammunition was gone, until their bodies could take no more. And when the order came to surrender, they thought the nightmare was over. But for them, it had only begun. Under the blazing sun, they were marched for miles without food or water. Those who stumbled were struck down where they fell. They called it the Bataan Death March, and for many, it was. But even in that hell, there were acts of kindness, of courage, of brotherhood. A sip of stolen water. A shoulder to lean on. A whispered prayer that someone, somewhere, would remember them. Years later, when most of the world had moved on, a small group of men did remember. They were rangers, trained for speed, precision, and silence. They were sent on a mission that seemed impossible. To go deep behind enemy lines, to rescue those who had been forgotten. They marched through the jungle for days, crawling through mud and darkness, hearts pounding, weapons clutched tight. Every step could have been their last. But they pressed on, not for fame, not for orders, but because no one gets left behind. When they reached the camp, the prisoners were shadows of their former selves, thin, sick, half believing the rescue was a dream. But that night, hope came roaring back to life. Gunfire broke the silence. Shouts filled the air, "We're Americans. You're going home." And for the first time in years, those men saw freedom. It was not an army that saved them, it was brotherhood. A promise kept in the darkest of times. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the strength to act in spite of it. Those rangers, those prisoners, those villagers who helped along the way, they were ordinary people who did extraordinary things. And they remind us of a simple truth. That heroism is not always found on the battlefield. Sometimes it's found in the quiet act of refusing to give up on others. Today, when we speak of war, we speak of strategy, of battles, of victory and defeat. But behind every headline is a heartbeat, a name, a story, a life. The men of Cabanatuan, and millions like them, gave us a legacy written not in triumph, but in endurance. So let us remember them. Not as statistics, but as sons, brothers, and fathers. Men who endured the unendurable, and proved that even in humanity's darkest hour, light can still be found. Because history is not just about who won or lost. It's about who refused to be forgotten. And as long as we tell their stories, they never will be.